till I came here.
Tokyo Vice. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much.
Many accept favors from the Yakuza.
You know who I am?
Once you open a door, it is very hard to close.
Japan, Japanese, gaijins, white boy. It was so much better than I thought it would be. Because I initially was like, Tokyo Vice? What does that even mean? Because the only similar title I've ever heard of was Miami Vice. And I was like, well, I don't know, it's catchy, it works. You know, you get the sense of what you're going into when you watch and see a title like Miami Vice, for example. But Tokyo Vice, I was like, well, what could that mean? Because I feel like the show just kind of showed up out of nowhere. And I didn't really know what to think about it at the time. Because all I had to go off of initially is the cover, which has Ansel Elgort on it, and Ken Watanabe. And that's all, but I was like, well, okay, this Ansel guy looks familiar. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. And I was actually rewatching the Carrie remake the other day, the reboot, with that Chloe, Grace Martinez girl, or whatever her name is. And he was actually the boyfriend on that movie. So it was weird watching that after Tokyo Vice. I was like, wow, a guy that's on a movie that I didn't... Like, I knew he was familiar, but, I mean, I don't remember seeing him on a lot of things. So it was kind of cool to get some perspective on, like, who this guy is, what movies he's been on, what roles does he play. The main character, Ansel, who is named Jake in the show. But he's pretty cool. I actually really like him. And of course Ken, I knew about him forever. But you know, he's a pretty popular guy. The reason how I found out about him specifically, it's the same guy in The Last Samurai, right, with Tom Cruise. I don't really know what else I know he's in a lot of stuff, but that was my introduction to him, and he's great. He's brilliant. He's got a nice voice. He's always got that, like, look, you know, like he's up to something or doing something important and staying busy. I like him. He's perfect for this. So initially, well, the first episode's really great. And it's a TV show. It just goes on from there. It continues what it's doing. It slowly goes into this and that. It's normal, right? But the first episode was so good. Like, I mean, what do they call it? A pilot? Like, first episodes are supposed to be the best, but in TV shows it's kind of hit or miss. Like, maybe it gets better. Maybe the last episode is better. Maybe somewhere in between. It all just kind of depends on what you consider really good, but I don't think there's anything that compares to that first episode, because I could not have been drawn in so much seeing what I saw and laying down on my phone watching the show that I was not expecting to like at all. I was like, eh. I mean, it's about true crime. It's about Yakuza. I mean, it's in the description. Late 1990s. And, I just kept finding reasons to get into it more and more because I also have played the Yakuza games, not all of them, but so I have a lot of perspective on the Yakuza culture, and seeing a show kind of bring a video game into a different light. Like, obviously, the show and the video game have nothing to do with each other than the Yakuza, obviously, but what was cool about the show is that it wasn't just about that. It never really is it? It's about it's about family, it's about love, it's about relationships, dating, ambition, goals, dreams, and I was so hooked on that just in the first episode when, I saw this guy and I was like, this is me. Maybe I wouldn't be doing exactly what he's doing, but I related and identified with him so much. So basically, if you're someone that really wants to move to Japan, visit, you want to live there, find a job there, grow old there, get married there, have kids, just create a life in another place that is away from everything that you've known, all your memories, all your whole past, and really go for a fresh start and a new beginning. Maybe it is related to something very specific, or maybe to other people it could be just everything Japanese culture, but this show does such a good job at not only showing tourism, what Japan looks like in the streets and the buildings, but it's so good. I can't help it. Like, I'm not much of a true crime guy, but I didn't mind it either. I think when it comes to Japan and their culture and the Yakuza, gangs, mafia, whatever you want to call it, and you kind of got this guy who's in a different country and adapting to the people, it's very self-explanatory. That white guy who's in another country and kind of getting broken in and making friends and really doing something bigger than himself. For him, the people around him. I just think that's so cool. And this is based off a true story, too. About some guy who went and did exactly what this guy went there to do, specifically. And I just think if this was done any differently, like, obviously, I'm gonna be drawn to the show. Tokyo, the guy, Ken, the word Yakuza, 1990s, I'm all there, right? I was gonna give it a chance since the very beginning. But I can't express enough how, like, it actually ended up hooking me so much. It's unbelievable. I never thought I'd see the day. I don't really get into TV shows too much. I'm more of a movie person, but I was like, finally, something refreshing. Finally, something that's not a movie. That's not, The Last Samurai, 47 Ronin. Whatever kind of, like, Japanese American movies that we end up actually getting. 13 Assassins. Basically anything with any American, Western, whatever you want to call it, production value, but obviously filmed in Japan or whatever it may be. There was G.I. Joe Snake Eyes not the other day, but a while ago. We got that. Like, any movie like that with that kind of culture in it, I'm all about it. You got Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise. I mean, I think we don't get that much of this type of stuff, at least from what I've seen, and it's quite a shame. I'd love to see more of it. Like, if it was up to me, I wish every movie and every show was somehow related to Japan in some way or another. The Wolverine with Hugh Jackman, Japan. Like, I am a sucker for those movies. And to see something so real that's not a movie, a TV show, there's drama, there's action. It just felt so good and really hit that good spot of this is what I'm craving right now. This is what I want. It couldn't come at a better time. Any time would have been fine, but now is better than ever. I just laying down in bed or however people watch things, right? I was just so immersed. It has so much immersion in it. I love it so much. I love the culture, I love the people there, I love the land, the history, past, present, future, anything. And to see something so real, so human, so natural. It felt good. It wasn't some documentary, it wasn't some like, you know, Japan tourism TV series. It hit that perfect spot of like, okay, I'm getting to live out my Yakuza experience with the Sega game in a TV show environment. It hit every spot. I loved the characters the most, which is normal. Everyone was so... that camaraderie of like when... you know, when people not natively born in that country make it to a point where they go through so much just to be in another place with other people, adapting to this environment that is totally probably opposite from where you were before, and it ends up being the best thing for you. You're lost and you're found. It's amazing. But the thing here is that this guy actually had a goal, which was cool. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm a fan, I love anime, whatever, I'm gonna go move over there, you know, start some kind of life there. He had a real goal, which is nice to see. I like that he's persistent and smart, Jake.
Jake is really determined, and he wants to prove himself. He's found this great opportunity to come to Japan. He wants the challenge of learning something new and getting into something that is a little scary.
He has a reason, goals, ambitions. And that was something hard to relate to because, you know, I realized people moved over there for business, for very specific things. And I think for a lot of people, it's just kind of that great escape that, I mean, everyone, a lot of people, especially my generation at least, has grown up with, you know, a lot of Saturday morning cartoons that was like half anime, half Western. And then that's what kind of gets you to watch actual anime, and whether it's subbed or dubbed, like, you really, as a kid, you kind of really absorb all that in, and something clicks later on. Like I said before, this is a show for people who can really appreciate Japan for what it is, where it's been, where it will go. So it has its audience right there. But it will also connect to people who do like true crime stuff. I know that's a thing. Who are interested in gangs in general, especially the Yakuza. You don't fuck with them. And you could just relate to anyone in the show. I was obviously really identifying with Jake pretty bad. And I just imagine, like, that could be me. if that's not me, that's someone else, you know, someone that lives there right now, teaching English, teaching, learning, having some job overseas. Like, there's so much to it. And I know this is a show about the Yakuza specifically, but the thing here is that there's so much more to it. There's emotions, it hits everything. I want the show to continue on. I want more of this. I want more seasons. Fuck it, make a movie. Please give us more Japanese stuff. Like, that's not like just anime or just these AAA movies, or, you know, what do you call movies of that tier? AAA? I forgot the word. I'll think of it later. But I can't recommend this enough. I love it. I could go on about it forever. I mean, it has the word Tokyo in it, right? Like, who doesn't love Tokyo? Who doesn't love the city? If just watching the show could teach you a lot about, you know, like, hey, I know this is a TV show, but this guy is doing it. I know there's a lot of people who want to move to Japan and start a new life. And I respect that. And this is some guy who's done it. Even for his role, he learned how to speak fluent Japanese, write it. This is for a TV role. That's insane. What a good excuse to learn, right? Get off your butt. Do something meaningful. Not only did he get to make a sweet show, but he got to leave with those attributes. I just think that's so cool. He got to work with all these Japanese people who are a big part of American culture as well. Like, I just love it. I love it so much. Just how many Japanese people are willing to learn English. How far English people will go to make this work in a whole nother country, thousands of miles away. I know from where I live, Japan's about 2,000 miles away. It's insane. Other than the basic love for Japan and connecting to the characters, it's about what you'd expect. It's drama, it's, you know... I kind of went into this already kind of knowing what to expect, and that's why I loved it so much more than I did. But regardless, you're gonna find a way to appreciate it one way or another, no matter who you are. I think to watch anything of Japanese nature, you really have to have a thing for it, because it's definitely something that you just have to really want to sit down and watch this. I mean, if we look at a couple examples like The Last Samurai, they could not have gotten the most American, whitest guy ever to play that part in the movie, which is a very common niche too. It's always that one single white guy, right? Who's like in this country with completely different looking people. Nothing's quite the same. Everything's very, very, very different. But it's a very common storyline. I've seen quite a few times actually. You know, it's that one place where, like, you know, if you're feeling lost, you can kind of find yourself and create your own destiny, make your own fate, build up your own self. All that spiritual, self-guiding enlightenment, it's all there. And this is a daily thing for this guy, is that he lives here and he works there, and he's got a big job too. It's a big deal. I'm obviously not gonna give a whole lot away, because why do that? But yeah, personally, I loved it, and I know a lot of people out there will too. There's only about one other person I know of that's even seen the show, and I think that's pretty cool though, is that, you know, I'm not the only one that found the show out of nowhere on this platform. It's on HBO Max. And, you know, shit, out of everything I saw on HBO, this is the one show that I was like, this was worth it. This is what makes that subscription worth it. Seriously, like, they have a ton of movies. There's always going to be that one thing. Like, for HBO, it was this show. For Paramount Plus, it was Halo. For originally HBO, I wanted it for the Matrix movie, the newest one, Resurrections. That was a limited thing. Which I was like, you know, I had to actually rent the movie instead of watch it on HBO Max. But they got a lot of good stuff. It's very impressive. It's a little more premium than some other streaming sites out there, but it's so worth it. This show alone, yeah. They're in their first season now. I don't know, I wish I knew about these things ahead of time. I really do, like, oh, this show's gonna come out. It's starring blah blah blah. It's filmed in Japan. Oh. But that's what I love about finding these things and experiencing things, not watching trailers, not getting spoilers. Because when I saw this, I went in blind. I didn't know anything. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Just how everything kind of happened to work out was just perfect. This viewing experience was exactly what I needed. What a lot of people may be able to use. It can really fill up that spot with, if you're kind of just craving anything Japan related. And for some, it may be hard to watch things like this because this is filmed in such a faraway land that could be some sort of a heaven. And it can be tough. But it's one of those things where you just gotta embrace it for what it is instead of run away from it, because TV shows and movies is what fuels us to, it's motivation. What keeps us going, what keeps us dreaming, wanting, believing. And this is a show that will do that. But thank God, as much as I love Ansel, I don't know whether to call him Ansel or Jake at this point. Like, you know, they're two in the same, and the character he played was just great. I loved it. But if it wasn't for Ken Watanabe,
片桐って男はミステリアスでその厳しいところと優しいところ柔軟なところみたいなことが両方出るキャラクターですよね。ジェイクと関わりながら彼を一人前の記者に導いていくようなキャラクターだというふうに考えています。
he really tied the show together because, I mean, let's face it, he's a big American Japanese actor who lives. I don't know all the details. I mean, he speaks English. You know, there's a lot of Japanese people that don't really know how or don't bother, and you know, him alongside Ansel. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Ansel, Elgort. But it's guys like him that really motivate me to and others, I'm sure, to not give up, keep going, keep trying, do what it takes. You know, if he's someone that you can look up to and is some sort of a role model, great. He's the perfect guy for it. He really is. Each character held their own for sure. But I mean, let's face it, Ken was the kind of he's the lead supporting role, obviously. And as much as I'd like to think of him as a main character, I'm glad it was Jake. He nailed it. I really like the guy. If I didn't like the guy before, I have so much more respect for him now. His profile, what he's done. The fact that he's done the show is so huge. I think that's so cool. You know, because every role is different, but this one was so, you know, it was so down to earth. And I think he left a better person because of it. I think he is a better person because of the show. Working together, every other character. I didn't know whether I was playing Yakuza half the time, watching it, living it, seeing it, hearing it. I'm like, all my senses were on fire. I just have too many good things to say about it. The show made me really happy, and I'm really glad I got to experience it and enjoy it. I love it. I want more of it. Please. If I had any hand in Hollywood, I would be making stuff like this very specifically. I guarantee it. I know there's a lot of movies here and there that get to represent this type of lifestyle and is perfect for people like me. But there needs to be more of it. There really does. I just think that'd be the coolest thing. But I mean, the thing is, like, people depend on anime for that, right? But you gotta mix it up. As much as I love anime, I'd like to see real things too. You know, real people, real talking, real locations, everything. Real emotions, real feelings. That you just can't quite get out of anime in that exact same sort of way. But overall, I can add it to my collection of things that I have seen that are interesting, that caught my eye, that you could almost say was life-changing. The things I watch, I don't just watch them just 'cause. Everything I watch or play or do has a very specific reason. It's because I love it. It relates to me. I want to express it. I want to push it out there. I want to give some credit where it's due. Like, these people are out here making these awesome shows and making these games, and for us to cope with whatever it is that is happening around us. And it has kept me going for so long. If it wasn't for things like this show, I don't know. I'd be a very different person, and that's kind of scary to think about. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad this part of me loving this country has just grown and grown every single day since I was a kid. And it's because of all that, the build up, everything I've ever watched or learned about led up to the show. And I'm just excited for the future because I can't wait to watch more things like this. I can't wait to play more games that have to do with this culture. It just never ends. There's so much of it. That's part of my my goal too is just to get whatever I can out of Japan. I love it so much. It makes me happy. But yeah, this it's on HBO Max. Tokyo Vice, featuring Ansel Elgort and Ken Watanabe. There's a lot of side characters, obviously. And if you like Japan, watch it. If you don't, watch it. Japan forever.